Good afternoon. Old friends, new friends, tall McDonald's, proud Campbells, McAllisters, Stewarts, and yes, folks whose name is so Scottish, you can almost hear the bagpipes when someone calls you. Kolesh Atatu. Where do you come from? Who do you belong to? It's a joy to be here at the Scotland County Highland Games in Laurinburg, where tartans fly, capers fly, and maybe even kilts if the wind plays tricks. But today, beyond the spectacle, I invite you to feel something deeper, what I call the pulse of ArgyllAmerica. Thank you to the Highland Games and to Bill Caudill. I also want to give a heartfelt thank you to my wife, Cynthia, who is accompanying me today, and to many family and friends. I'm honored to stand here as a son of Harnett County, North Carolina, an African American with Highland roots in my DNA, and heritage running through my maternal great-great-grandfather, Charles Clark, on my mother's side. Today, I will lean heavily on the spirit of the late playwright, Paul Green, who drew his own inspiration from his mentor at Chapel Hill, Frederick Henry Koch, over 100 years ago. It was Professor Koch who said, "Write about the folk you know. Even better, write about the folk you are." That wisdom still guides me today. As many of you might know, I am a participant in the PBS documentary, Voices Over the Water, produced by Guy Perotta and Jane Ferguson. It documents and explores the struggles and triumphs of the Scottish diaspora in the United States and the various voices, all seeking a sense of identity and belonging. It was nominated for 2 Emmy Awards. My talk today is titled, ArgyllAmerica, Where Heritage Fuels Resilience. If these trees could talk, they wouldn't speak only in Gaelic, they'd hum with African spirituals. They'd echo the wisdom of native peoples who walked this land long before any kilted foot touched it. This land is not a solo voice, it's a chorus. The fusion of cultures was something Paul Green understood in his bones. Paul Green, a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright from Harnett County, heard that chorus. Though of Scottish descent, his conscience was shaped by the African American hands working beside him in the fields. These hands also picked cotton, and they picked stories. Paul Green listened. One such story, of many great ones, is Rassie and the Barlow Knife, a personal favorite, found in Green's book titled Home to My Valley. Here, Green chronicles his relationship with his childhood friend, Rassie McLeod, who sadly dies of typhoid fever. It is a beautiful story of brotherly love and friendship. He also wrote In Abraham's Bosom, a groundbreaking play that exposed the raw, unvarnished reality of Black life in the Jim Crow South, and won a Pulitzer Prize in 1927 for doing so. He studied at Campbell University's Forerunner, graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, served in the military, then emerged as a playwright, poet, and prophet. His most famous work, The Lost Colony, an outdoor symphonic drama, still lights up the Outer Banks every summer. But Green's truest masterpiece was his courage, which went beyond the page. In a time when silence was safety, Paul Green spoke. Long before civil rights was a headline, he showed how stories challenge injustice and ignite change. Green created Little Bethel Country, a fictionalized version of where Scottish, African, and Native stories overlapped like the waves of the Cape Fear. Little Bethel Country was ArgyllAmerica before I had a name for it. A world where black and white hands plowed the same fields and planted the future together. And let us not forget the remarkable Reverend John Campbell Sinclair, known simply as Reverend J.C. Sinclair. He was more than a preacher. He was a bridge between the old country and the new, between faith and culture, between language and identity. When Reverend Sinclair stood in the pulpit, he preached the gospel in Gaelic so that Highlanders of the Cape Fear Valley could hear the word of God in their ancestral tongue. His sermons were not just spiritual lessons, they were cultural lifelines, binding the Hebrides to Carolina. His journey began on the Isle of Tiree, one of the Western Hebrides group, Argyllshire, Scotland, in 1800. Called by the Presbytery, he sailed to Nova Scotia, then migrated with his wife and family and 5 children. After her passing, he pressed on, ultimately arriving in North Carolina in 1859 to minister at Galatia and Barbecue Presbyterian churches. But history reshaped his mission. In 1866, he founded Love Grove AME Zion Church, just miles from Barbecue in western Harnett County. Step inside today, and you'll see his portrait hanging as the first pastor, above a line of successors, every one of them African American. Think about that. A Gaelic-speaking preacher from Scotland, remembered as the founding pastor of a black church in the Reconstruction South. That is connection. That is the spirit of ArgyllAmerica. And his legacy continued. His eldest son, Reverend James Sinclair, also took up the call, serving the PD River Valley and shaping this region's often complicated story. Now, historians remind us that culture and identity live inside language. Here, in the upper Cape Fear River Valley, we see why. In a place where Highland Scots and African Americans lived side by side, language became more than words. It became common ground. In 1872, writing to a friend at the Presbytery in Inverness, Scotland, Reverend Sinclair reflected on the passing of time and the fading sound of Gaelic. He wrote, "The old race is gone, and their descendants have given up, in a great degree, the customs and manners of the old Gaels. There is no Gaelic preached in the Carolinas now, nor is it likely there would be in the future. Yet, I have met with a number of colored people who speak the Gaelic as well as if they had been raised in any of the Hebrides. What a striking testimony that in the fields of North Carolina, among the descendants of the enslaved, The ancient tongue of the Gaels could still be heard, spoken fluently, as though the Atlantic had never divided them. Reverend J.C. Sinclair's life reminds us that faith, language, and culture are not separate. They are woven together. And in that weaving, blacks and whites in this region found a closeness. Imperfect, yes, but enduring, that shaped the legacy of the Upper Cape Fear. Just down the road in Bladen County lived Omar ibn Said, a scholar from Senegal, a Muslim, enslaved, remembered as Prince Omar. After escaping bondage in South Carolina, he was captured near Fayetteville and sold to James Owen, a powerful planter of Welsh descent. Omar lived under the Owens roof or in his own quarters for over 5 decades. He wrote in Arabic. He quoted the 23rd Psalm. A Christian verse in the language of the Quran appears in his manuscript, still preserved today in the Library of Congress. So why share this story here at the Highland Games? Because this land was never shaped by Scots alone. It was shaped by Highlanders, native tribes, and enslaved Africans, all leaving their mark. Omar's story reminds us heritage is not always comfortable, but it is sacred. The same soil that nurtured Highland faith and held Omar's quiet strength, remembering both honors all who shaped this land. And if Omar could hold to his identity, his dignity, to his God, then surely we can hold space for his story too. This too is ArgyllAmerica, where cultures collided, braided, and endured. No story of ArgyllAmerica can be told without the Pinus palustris, Latin for Longleaf Pine. No symbol better embodies our blended legacy, beloved by the Scots, who sang of it in Gaelic lullabies, revered by native peoples who harvested its gifts, and exploited by African American laborers, whose hands blended sap into tar, pitch, and turpentine, giving North Carolina its nickname, the Tar Heel State. My childhood, Tobacco Road, was not necessarily the fancy one of ACC sports, even though I'm a Carolina fan, as in, is the sky blue? Any Duke, Wake, or NC State fans out there? My Tobacco Road was sandy soil, black tin roof barns, and hands of every hue working together. Descendants of early Gaelic-speaking Scottish immigrants and workers, often, but not always African Americans, generations removed from slavery. Not always equal, but always connected. And that connection and the rhythm of the work songs over the fields, you will find ArgyllAmerica. What is ArgyllAmerica, you ask? That messy beauty, that collusion and fusion, that's the essence of what I call ArgyllAmerica. ArgyllAmerica is a duly defined hybrid word which I created that focuses on the multicultural relationships of the various peoples of this region. ArgyllAmerica respects the legacy of the Argyll County of North Carolina, established in 1739, yet is inclusive, embracing the reality of other cultures that coexist in a land we know and love as America. ArgyllAmerica isn't just a place you will find on a map, even though it denotes a region of the state of North Carolina. It's a spirit, a story. The story of how Scottish settlers, enslaved Africans, free people of color, native tribes, and their descendants collided, coexisted, traded, fought, mourned, and prayed on the same land, under the same sky, and breathing the same pine-scented air. It's history's mixtape. It's history's mixtape, remixed in the tea-colored waters of the Cape Fear. At Cameron Hill Presbyterian Church, I saw ArgyllAmerica with my own eyes. On one side, Scottish names, Afro-descendant graves, some unmarked. On the other, their stories just as rich, their lives just as valuable. That cemetery taught me history isn't something we visit, it's something we carry. And keeping watch over those who pass Cameron Hill stands the Flora MacDonald historical marker, the exiled Scottish heroine herself, reminding us that every story in this land is tangled with every other. That spirit, the spirit of unexpected consequences, intersections, followed me to Campbell University. Campbell in Gaelic means curved mouth, and the story of Campbell is as curvy and beautiful as ArgyllAmerica itself. Campbell University was founded by Reverend Dr. J.A. Campbell, a son of Scottish immigrants. And in Arthur J. Winston Pierce's book, Campbell College, Big Miracle at Little Buish Creek, we learned that Campbell's led to Christ as a child by a black man, a descendant of slaves. That experience shaped his faith, his life's work, and the founding of Campbell University, a place that will go on to educate thousands, including me. True sustainability is cultural. It means preserving Gaelic prayers, African spirituals, native wisdom. The Longleaf Pine survives through fire. So do we. Say it with me. Heritage fuels resilience. Again, heritage fuels resilience. Heritage is not just about the past. It fuels who we are today and who we will become tomorrow. The spirit of ArgyllAmerica shows us that resilience grows stronger when the cultures come together. From Senegal to Scotland, from the Cape Fear River Valley to Nova Scotia's Cape Breton. This is our story. Our history isn't over. We are still writing it.